Hello and welcome everybody to this little series about Counter-Strike Global Offensive tradeup contracts. I'm doing this series because lately I read a lot about people being surprised or even disappointed about the outcome of their tradeup contracts. And that's the thing which is absolutely not too necessary, because it is perfectly manageable to determine for example, the quality of a skin before even submitting the tradeup contract. And of course, there was always the question if it's actually possible to profit from tradeup contracts. And to answer these questions, I'm going to do this little series. In this first video, I'm just going to cover the absolute basics for the tradeup contracts, giving you an overview which tools you can possibly use for this, how the tradeup contracts actually work in total, so which skins you can throw into there, and how exactly the chances of the different outputs get chosen, and how the float value gets calculated from the tradeup contract. And that it's absolutely possible to determine this float value or the quality of the skin before you even submit it. In the next 1 or 2 videos, I'm going to talk about trading up in a smart way, meaning giving you some tips and hints how you can profit from trade-ups and how you can use the expected value of a trade-up to determine if it's a good trade-up or not. And I'm going to give you an overview about the most important techniques, meaning float management and mixed collection trade-ups in combination with float management. But if you're absolutely sure that you know everything about the basics, you can just go skip ahead to the next video. If you're not too sure, enjoy the video. To begin with, there are a couple of good tools you can use for tradeup contracts in general, or even for Steam in general. The most important one is Steam Inventory Helper, which you can get from the Chrome Web Store. It's a very, very good tool, not only for tradeup contracts, but for Steam in general. And Steam Wizard, which is especially handy to find float values of items on the market. When it comes to websites, I'd like to recommend CSGO Stash, because you find a lot of very good information there. And CSGO Analyst, which you can use to get a nice quick overview over all the float values of items in your inventory. So what can you actually use for tradeup contracts? You can pretty much use all the skins from the normal CSGO game, which you got in-game or from cases, to trade up to higher quality items. So you need 10 items of the same quality. For example, 10 consumer grade items, 10 military grade items, and so on. The only items you cannot trade up to higher items are covert skins. You cannot trade covert skins to knives, for example. You can obviously not trade knives to something higher. You cannot trade up souvenir skins, and you cannot trade up contraband items. And also you cannot trade up stickers or similar. What is absolutely possible is trading up StatTrak items. So if you have 10 StatTrak items, you can trade up to a StatTrak item 1 quality higher. But you cannot mix items. You cannot, for example, take 5 StatTrak items and 5 non-StatTrak items and trade them up together. That won't work. So let's get started with the tradeup contract itself. As I mentioned before, you need 10 skins in total to do a tradeup contract. And each of these 10 skins have a 10% chance to get chosen from the tradeup contract. And this, on the other hand, determines the next steps, so which skin you can actually get from the whole tradeup contract. So to give you a little example, I'm going to do like a virtual tradeup contract now. And I'm going to throw in a couple of different skins in there from a couple of different collections. So I'm going to start by throwing in an AWP Elite build from the Wildfire collection, which gives me a chance to get either the AK Fuel Injector or the M4A4 Battlestar. The chance, like I mentioned, is 10% that this skin gets chosen at all, and then I got a 50-50 chance to get either the Fuel Injector or the Battlestar. So the math behind this is pretty simple. We have 10% or 50%, or 0.1 times 50%, so you have a 5% chance to get either of those skins. Now let's throw a couple more skins from the Wildfire collection in there. Let's throw in 4 in total. And for each skin, I get an additional 5% chance to get the AK or the M4. So with 4 skins, I've got a total chance of 20% for the Fuel Injector and 20% for the Battlestar. Now let's throw in a skin from a different collection, for example, from the Esports 2013 collection. This has only 1 red skin, so there's a 100% chance if this skin gets chosen that I get the P90 Death by Kitty. So the math behind it this time is 10% of 100%, so the total chance is 10% for the death by kitty. And for the other 5 skins, as you can see, 5 skins are still missing. At the moment the chances are 20, 20, 10%. So for the final 5 skins, I'm going to throw in 5 skins from the same collection, and in this case from the Huntsman collection. The math behind it is the same with Whitefire, because I have 2 possible outputs, the Vulcan and the Desert Strike. So for each skin I throw in there from the Huntsman collection, I'm going to get an additional 5% for these 2 skins. So like I mentioned, I'm going to throw in 5 in total, so I'm going to have a 25% chance to get a Vulcan or a Desert Strike. And that is pretty much all for this trade-up contract, because now we have 10 skins in there, and the total chances for our outcome are the highest ones for the Vulcan and the Desert Strike with 25% chance each. The next one from the Wildfire collection, the AK Fuel Injector and the Battlestar, 20% each. And the least probable is the P90 Death by Kitty with a 10% chance. So now we're going to get to the second very important part of the trade-up contract, which is the float value, because obviously we would prefer a factory new skin to, for example, a Battlescarred skin. So there is a pretty easy way actually to determine the float value of the skin you will get. But what is the float value, if you don't know that already? The float value stands for the condition of the skin. So float value ranges from 0 to 1, which stands for a condition between 100 and 0, or from factory new to Battlescarred. So a float value of 0 would be perfectly factory new, and 1 would be horribly Battlescarred. And those are the ranges in which a skin would be considered minimal wear, for example, if the float value is between 0.07 and 0.15. So that should show you also that the skins can differ very, very much, because obviously a field-tested skin with a float of 0.37 would look much worse than a field-tested skin with a quality of a float value of 0.16, for example. So this is something which is very important to keep in mind for the trade-up contracts. So what does the float value from a trade-up contract depend on? Well, there's only 2 things actually. This is the average float value of the 10 skins we put in, so the arithmetic average. So pretty much we take the 10 skins, add them up and divide them by 10 to get the average. And the float range of the skins we can get as output, which I'm going to show you an example of, in the following example. So for example, we use 10 skins from the Wildfire collection. So all the same collection, we just throw them in there. And our 10 skins now have a quite different ranges of float values. So we throw in everything from factory new to Battlescarred and just toss it in there. And then we're going to calculate the average. Like I said, we add up all the float values, divide them by 10. So in this example, we have an average float value of 0.179. Now we have to get the float ranges from the skins we can get, so from the covert skins, from the AK and the Battlestar. You can just go on CSGO Search, for example, and check out the skins itself. And there you will find the box on the bottom right where you can see the float range. So in this case, the AK ranges from 0 to 1. So it's a full range skin. The Battlestar, on the other hand, ranges only from 0 to 0.64. So this is actually a limited float range. So now we have the average float value and we have the minimum and maximum floats of the 2 output skins. And now we're going to use the formula for the trade-up, which is the maximum of the output skin minus the minimum of the output skin, multiplied with the average input float value. And to that we have to add the minimum of the float range from the skins we can get. So we have to calculate it for each skin we can get from the trade-up contract, because it will differ. So in our case, we're going to do that step by step. For the AK, we start with subtracting the minimum from the maximum, so 1 minus 0 gives us 1. Then we multiply it with the average input float value of 0.179, which we calculated before. And add to that the minimum, which is 0 in this case. So if we get the AK with a 50% chance, the AK will have a float value of exactly 0.179. For the Battlestar, on the other hand, since the borders are different, because now it's not ranging from 0 to 1, but from 0 to 0.64, the calculation looks different, because obviously we get 0.64 in the first step, then multiply it with the average input float value. So we land at a float of 0.11456. And obviously at 0 again, because the minimum float value is 0 as well, same as the AK. So in this case already we get 2 skins with totally different float values. So in case of the AK, we would get a field-tested skin with a float of 0.179. And if we get the Battlestar, we will get a float value of 0.11456, which is actually a minimum wear skin. So as you can see, even this example, this very, very little example with the same collection skins, we can get 2 totally different outputs. So this wraps it up for this video. I hope you liked it, and I would be happy if you leave a rating or a comment. If you have wishes or ideas, just let me know. And I hope to see you for the second part of this video. Until then, have a great day.